Potential trigger warning. I must begin this post like that to caution those who have dealt with abusive partners. Please proceed only if you think you can handle such cases. This is particularly upsetting for me to write because this is about my daughter, and while I am upset at her for her foolishness, as her father, I am also desperately worried about her. I promise I will not get into explicit details, but I will say this might stir up some strong feelings in you, whether it is anger or sadness. Okay, let us begin with the statement. I have been gnawing at me all this time. How far should you let your children enjoy their freedom? Or, let me rephrase it, what is the limit? Hi, this is Eric, M39. My teenage daughter has returned to me after an outing with a couple of her friends, as is claimed by her, bruised and with a few bandages wrapped around her limbs. The sight of her scared the hell out of me. I know for certain it was not what she claimed it to be. How has it reached this situation? I have only an inclination. And today, I am going to share that with you. It has been a few days since, and I did a lot of thinking before coming here. It was necessary because her boyfriend had returned. Pardon me if I am not coherent enough. It is about my daughter, and I am as scared as any other parent would be about their teenage daughter in this situation. I live in a small apartment with my daughter, Sofia, F18. It is a small enough apartment, but we have managed so far. I have no romantic partners except for this one lady that I have been seeing for some time, though it certainly is not serious. Throughout these years and after my wife's death, I have raised Sofia on my own, with little help from my family or the outside world. It was certainly not easy, but it worked out for a very long time. Sofia was a promising child, but as she grew older, her ways of seeing the world changed. Certainly, like anyone else, I accepted this as an inherent part of growing up. It was certainly that, but in the wrong direction. Sofia started to love money. I am unsure how that started. I have worked as a software engineer for nearly 15 years now, so although not much, money has come pretty easy in my life. Even then, I must admit there were a few demands from my daughter that I could really not fulfill. Maybe it was because of that, I am not sure. Anyway, Sofia started to love money, and that meant she wanted one thing after another. For the most part, I was able to fulfill her wishes, but not for all. It was after she was caught stealing from her homeroom teacher's purse that I realized the situation was getting worse. She was only 8 at that time. But the way she had defended herself had made me cautious about a lot of things. Some of my family members warned me about it, but mostly dismissed it. They all agreed on one thing, though. Sofia will learn to behave over time. She did not. Instead, she got worse. Although her love for money was already there, she got a little more rebellious. It often got her in trouble. Mostly, though, it got her in contact with random people that none would have seen coming. I would tell her to be cautious around her new friends, and a new argument would blow up between us. I would try to talk to her, and she would refuse to listen. I would ground her, and she would distance herself from me. These little rebellions only helped her so much, but they did give hints that I had to be very careful about her. Unfortunately, work kept me busy. And she started lying a lot. For months and years, I could not differentiate between her lies and her truth. Yes, that is embarrassing, but it was what it was. The first time I realized things might be going in the wrong direction for my daughter was when I found her hanging out with a much older dude. She said it was her boyfriend, but he clearly looked like he was at least 25. It was wrong in itself. Sofia was only 16 at that time, and that clearly meant jail time for that dude. But he escaped. I threatened to beat him to a pulp, and he got scared and left. You should have seen the fit Sofia threw after that. It almost reminded me of my late wife. Yes, there is a reason for that. Catherine, my wife, had a history of the same. She had run away with a much older dude when she was 15, and the police could not find her for 2 weeks. It was only after someone sent the police an anonymous tip that they had seen a young girl with an older man around some parts of the city that they found her drugged in a shady-looking building. She was brought back, and everyone expected she would learn her lesson. She did not. To be very honest, maybe that is the reason I did not feel much surprised when Sofia started moving the same way. She had heard stories about her mom, and it clearly got into her head. Catherine's death was a tragic one, and I clearly do not want the same for my daughter. So I tried talking to her. In frustration, I even resorted to more strict ways of making her understand why it was all so wrong. She never did understand, though. What she learned was to hide it better. She no longer met with her boyfriends around our home. She never discussed such things with me. If not for the increasing number of souvenirs and expensive gifts in her bedroom, I would not have any suspicions about her at all. In easier words, she could easily be a successful actress and no one would bat an eyelash. But things were okay even then. But then her grades started dropping, and by the time she reached her high school, and I will sound very harsh when I say this, she was easily considered the dumbest in her class. She did not have basic knowledge, her grammar was lacking, and so was her general knowledge. Do not ask me about her math. It was going very badly. I was worried about her, but she had absolutely no interest in taking it seriously at all. She had no other interest, but it did not matter to her. For her, she had her entire life planned out for her. Her planning? Well, you already know. Keep rich people around you, follow their words, say yes to their yes and no to their no. Because of this, she had difficulty getting into a college as well. So, we both agreed on a gap year. She promised she would invest the year learning something nice. I did not shame her for anything at all, because I was glad she was at least thinking of that. Of course, it was short-lived. She asked for money for some fancy music class, and I provided her with everything I could. I even bought her an expensive piano. She seemed interested for a while, but within a couple months, I knew I had just wasted thousands of dollars for absolutely nothing. I learned pieces faster than she even thought of learning them. Then, some 8 or 9 months ago, she changed. She stayed out of home longer than was expected of her. I knew she had made friends, but I expected them to be from her music class. You know, people of her age. Unfortunately, it was not until the moment I was writing this post that I found out who it actually was. Sofia had promised she was not dating anyone, and I was relieved. Last week, she came to my room and asked me if she could go out with a couple of her friends. I asked her all the necessary questions, and she answered them cautiously, as if she had prepared her answers in advance. But I was still not suspicious. She had her iPhone with her all the time, and I had all the important numbers. I let her go. She had said she would be back on Thursday, but she returned on Tuesday morning, bruised and with bandages around her limbs. Scared, I asked her several questions and wondered if we should go to the hospital. She just said she was fine and that it was all because of an accident. She even said I could call her friend Vanessa if I did not believe her. She sounded so confident that I believed her. I think that was my first mistake. She refused to go to her music classes and remained in her bedroom throughout the day. She sometimes helped me with cooking, but that was all. We had little talks, and to be very honest, this was the closest she had been with me in a long while. For some days, I believed I was getting her back. But of course, it was only during that time that her boyfriend returned. Now this is interesting. He looked like any of her other boyfriends, aka much older than her. I placed his age somewhere around 27 or 28. He was muscled and everything, and he had introduced himself as Ethan. Although he seemed very well-mannered and polite, he immediately asked to talk to Sofia. I did not want him near my daughter, but Sofia ran up to him. They talked, and I observed their interactions. I did not know if I could trust Ethan, but he had managed to bring a smile to my daughter's face. He promised to meet her again and left. He had left her a gift. When he left, Sofia came to me and told me about him. She said he is 21 but looks older because he works so hard. Then, in a fragile voice, she told me she wanted to shift in with her boyfriend. Like any other father, I said, hell no. But it made her upset. She has since locked her in her bedroom and threatened to leave my home without telling me. So here I am. What am I supposed to do now? What can I do? Talking has never worked with Sofia. What chances are that it will now? Top comments. Let me be honest with you, your daughter has worried the heck out of me. I don't have children and I am only engaged to a man, but I am genuinely thinking if I should have a child. This all sounds like a headache. Besides the moral part, raising children is no joke, especially because you have to teach them so much, but you will never know what else they will get into. An 18-year-old girl who has already given up on working hard and wants rich boyfriends? Needs a reality check, and I am sorry if I sounded harsh there. Maybe do a background check on the boyfriend before letting her go? Look, I don't know why I think this way, but Ethan is a red flag. I don't know why, but he is. The fact he came to talk to your daughter only a couple of days after your daughter came home bruised? What are the chances she never went out with her friends and instead was with her boyfriend? There's something really fishy going on, and I want you to move. Seriously, before she gets hurt, do something. And think back to the day. Was your daughter acting different around him? I can't believe you're letting your daughter get away with this. You need to be stricter with her. I don't know how you can live with yourself knowing that your daughter is out there dating a man twice her age. She's a minor, and he's most likely a predator. You're a terrible parent. You're lucky that your daughter hasn't gotten herself into even more trouble. Wake the FACK up before it's late. Update 1. So she did it. I had been at my job, and when I came back, Sofia was no more at my home. She had gracefully left a note, though. It promised that she would be back in a few days and that I should not worry about her. I was worried as hell. So I immediately contacted some of my family members to talk to them about this. Unfortunately, for the most part, instead of being helpful, they were only accusing. They raised their fingers at me and told me I had gone wrong somewhere. They brought Catherine into the conversation and claimed they were not really surprised by Sofia's habits. It came with the blood, they said. It made me angry. They were not being helpful at all. I bid them a quick farewell and then took leave for the next day. I had contact with a few friends of Sofia, so I asked them about her and her boyfriend, Ethan. Out of all of them, only Vanessa knew a little about it. She said Ethan was 29 and basically a trust fund baby. Sofia and he met at a party that she had sneaked into instead of going to her music class. They immediately picked up and started dating. It happened months ago. Vanessa did not know anything other than that. The only meaningful thing she said was that she was pretty sure Ethan was abusive. She admitted she was a little jealous of Sofia because Ethan gave her everything she asked for, but still. She was glad that she did not have a boyfriend like him, which, although somewhat confusing, made sense to me. I knew I needed to look further into Ethan's background. A trust fund baby, all biases aside, is never good news. And abusive? Someone asked me if Sofia looked scared or different. Now that I think about it, maybe, I cannot be sure. Yes, it is true that he seemed to overpower her, both mentally and physically. She even seemed a little hesitant to touch him. It was Ethan who had pulled her in for a hug, and may I add, a little forcefully? I called her several times. She picked up, and I asked her to return at once. She threw a fit again. I threatened to report to the police if she did not. It seemed to do something to her. She promised to return the next day. The next day that she did, she had once again fresh bruises on her body. She tried to hide them behind baggy clothes that seemed to be in fashion these days, but I caught them anyway. She looked like she had not had a good sleep in ages, and there were bags under her eyes. Her skin looked dull, and I knew something was going horribly wrong. I tried talking to her. I promise you, I did try so much, but she had little to answer. Each time she had something else to explain her bruises. Eventually, she got sick of explaining her bruises and stopped trying to keep up with her lies. She started lying randomly. One time she said she slipped on the bathroom floor. One time she fell down the stairs. Another time she did not look before crossing the road. It was maddening. I was losing my patience. I almost did lose my patience, but I kept my anger in. I knew I had to tread carefully. If what I believed to be true then, it was a very sensitive case. One night, a few weeks after Sofia returned from Ethan's home, she broke down. She admitted, and I am not sure how it came to be, that Ethan had hurt her. I asked her what he had done. She answered he had physically hurt her. I was angry, and you could see it on my face. She knew that too. I told her that I would kill that son of a bitch and would go to jail if I had to. Something changed in her almost immediately. She started sobbing and asked me to not do anything. She looked so desperate and scared that I did not know what to make of it. I tried to look calmer and told her that though I would not kill him, I would call the police. That man is not getting away with it. Instead of agreeing, she kept repeating, "Don't do it." When I asked her and why I should not, "He has hurt my daughter. He is going to pay for it." She just answered that if I told the police, Ethan would do something worse. I do not know what she meant by that. What should I do? I have decided not to let Sofia go to Ethan's again, but I still do not understand what is happening. Also, to that one commentator, I am not a terrible parent. I agree, I am having difficulty dealing with this situation, but I swear I am not terrible. I am here to ask for help because I know if I do not take any action right now, it may result in something much worse. Update 2. I know it has been a few weeks, but I have good reasons for my long absence. This may sound weird and I may be in the wrong, but honestly, at this point, who the FCCK cares? I will kill Ethan. I do not care for anyone or anything at this point. That man has done something that no father will leave him alive. The moment I see him, I swear to God, he better hope that the police find him first because I am going to kill him. Some of you did hint, but what I have found is still worse than anything I had expected. Sure, after Sofia said that Ethan could do something worse, I had slight inclinations that some stupid, fickle moments had led to stupid decisions, but I was still not sure what they could be. I had an idea, but nothing else. But then, Ethan returned. He looked terrible this time. His face was unshaven, and he looked savage. I decided to not open the door for him. I knew he meant trouble. He said he wanted to talk to Sofia. I said she was not at home, and even if she were, I would not allow her to meet him. This pissed him off, and he, like your typical rich baby, started acting up. I told him that if he did not leave my premises, I would call the police. He was angry and wanted to do mean things, but it was clear he did not want trouble with the police. Before leaving, he growled at Sofia that if she did not contact him by the end of the day, I promise it will be very bad for you. Sofia looked very scared after hearing that. She even tried to follow her. I stopped her. But Ethan seemed to have expected her to follow him because he stayed in front of my house in his car for a very long time. Sofia started to sob, something that I must admit scared the hell out of me, but I did not allow her to follow him. It was obvious she was scared and worried about something. She looked for her phone and I hid it from her. I wanted to understand the situation. She looked like a maniac. For a very long time, she only screamed and cried. She even tried to lock herself in the bedroom. I really could not understand anything. I promise I was so scared I nearly called my mom to help me with this thing. Fortunately, she calmed down after some hours. I gave her water and asked her what was going on. I must have looked just as scared because she just started crying again, although softer this time, and said I was going to ruin her life. I looked at her in confusion. Her hair was all messed up and her face was so red and wet. I am giving you an idea what she looked like. Please, try to understand how scared I was. Then she said she had something to show me. She asked for her phone, unlocked it, and gave it to me. It was a chat she had shared with Ethan. I noticed that the internet was off. She clearly did not want him to know she was online. Besides the kind of messages lovers share, there were photos. Lots and lots of them. Some of them were shared by Sofia herself. I skipped them all. Within the next 10 minutes, I found out that Ethan had been blackmailing her with all the pictures she had shared and he had edited. There were little clips too, but I did not want to open them. Somehow I knew what they were. I threw the phone away and sat next to her. I honestly did not know what to say. This was the kind of mess that I had only seen movie characters going through. She said she was sorry and she did not know it would end up like this. He had promised her luxurious items every single time he had asked for pictures or videos. She had given them each time. Until recently, when she wanted to get out of the relationship, he blackmailed her that if she tried to do that, he would leak the pictures. This is what he had warned her about. Then she said she was not the only person. Ethan had done this with a few other girls as well. For a very long time, I did not know what to do about this. I certainly was not going to share it with any of my family members, not even with my parents, and they were the only nice people in my family. So, I had to handle this on my own and with the help of the police. I told Sofia this bit and she started crying again. She was clearly scared that this would mean Ethan would release everything, but I promised nothing like that would happen. I asked her to contact the other girls too. Ethan was foolish enough to send the threats through texts, but it was good for me. That man was going to get it really bad. She contacted the other girls and I contacted the police. We had some evidence already. I guess the police only needed a little more and a confession. But the moment I reached Ethan's house, the police next to me, I knocked a couple of teeth out of his ugly mouth. Hang on tight, everyone. Now you will know what happens to people like Ethan. Update 3. Ethan will have to register himself as an offender. You know what I am talking about. Sofia was not the only victim. There were several girls younger and older than her. Essentially, that means there was a lot of evidence against Ethan. His rich family tried their best to help him out of it, but that did not work. His confidence adding to the severity of the crime resulted in an uproar of sorts. Many people wanted him dead, but most of all just wished for a proper sentence for him. Thankfully, that happened. For once, I was glad our justice system works sometimes. In essence, he would have to serve a jail time of 23 years and without parole. What he has committed is basically a federal crime. You know how bad that is. Sofia and 2 other girls are still teenagers, so he has been charged with exploitation and keeping videos. Due to NSFW, I'm not allowed me to say a lot, so I will keep a few words as a hint. You know what I am talking about. Essentially, Ethan will serve 23 years. Besides the exploitation of a minor, he is also heavily charged with blackmailing. You can be sure our system does not take that lightly at all. Besides that, he is also charged with battery and assault in a particular girl's case. She had lied to her parents just as Sofia had lied to me. Physically, her condition was worse than Sofia's, even though nothing in this situation is worth comparing. You should have seen his damn face, though. With a couple of broken teeth and his parents weeping by his side, they made up a ridiculous family picture. When the judge sentenced him to 23 years, they begged him to lessen it because our Ethan is still so young. This will ruin his life. That pissed me off. How could they do that? How could they want their son to be free after what he has done? How could any parent? I do not understand. The judge humored them. He asked what they thought would be an appropriate sentence in this case. They answered 5 years. Yeah, you heard that right? The judge pointed at his 7 victims, including Sofia, and reminded them all the girls were younger than Ethan, and he tried to ruin their lives. So, the sentence that the court has announced is the right decision. This is the final decision, and they could challenge it whenever they want. They promised that they would, mostly to Ethan than to any of us, though. Well, that was about Ethan. Now, about Sofia. Well, she is doing good, pretty much. Sure, you and I know this wound will take a while to heal, but that day will come, I am sure of it. She talks very little, but I believe that comes with the shame of it all. Perhaps she is just embarrassed about it, I do not know. I have done my best to not make her feel that way. I have not said a word to shame her or insult her, though it is true I have shared a few words of advice with her. But you can expect a father to do that, especially after all that has happened, all right? She has continued with her music class and has even learned a new piece. She has also told me she wants to work. It is a small convenience store, but she insists on starting from there. I do not want to force her, so maybe I will suggest better places after a while. At least this seems like the beginning of something better. I do not like to drink, but dear Lord, I would love to share a beer with you right now. Top comments. He better not drop the soap, just saying Lama. I still feel like mothers do a better job at raising kids alone than men do. Idik. That's just my thought, though. Glad that you saved her before it could have gone worse, or even worse. These cases are definitely very sensitive, and Ethan could have damaged your daughter really badly, though I am pretty sure she has done his fair share of damage already. These things scare the FSEC out of me because how the FSEC are we supposed to know what's going on in our kids' heads? Social media sucks, in simple words. I am pretty sure she met a lot of bad people in her life because of that. But mostly, SNS is filled with rubbish and nonsense people with nonsense ideas. I am not saying it's all bad, it's not all good. They are teaching our kids the easy way. Isk, I want it gone in some ways. He deserves worse.